What's good, YouTube, and welcome to the house. This is certainly a deck I didn't think I would already see in a top cut of a sizable tournament. The ARG Arizona States was 81 people with some notable names, and Mekk Knight Invoked managed to plow through the competitors there under the pilot David Casimir. So I want to go ahead and show off this deck. The Invoked engine, I think, is one of the best engines to splash into things. It's very sizable. It gets itself out of the deck so you continue to draw your other cards. I really like the look of how it mixed with this deck. And the Mekk Knights being light, definitely turning on Mekk easily. That's pretty good. So let's get into his tournament report first, and then the deck profile. So he says, for tournament report, sorry to say I'm not good at it because this is kind of my first top. But Mekk Knights were perfect because no one knew what to do against them, how to counter them, and I ran enough hand traps that the deck could start and not stop or be stopped. So he's saying like he's fine continuing his plays. He's also fine not continuing his plays and sitting on his hand traps. It does have a hard time going first, but that is okay. Each one has a Cyber Dragon-like effect, and 1,000 Eyes Restrict makes a great choice in this deck because it can make 2 cards in a column without having a heavy commitment to the board. So like his 1,000 Eyes is able to slurp. That's actually really cool. Round 1 was ABC, and I won that 2-1. Basically, all I have to say is if you start a combo in time with the Strudo, you better OTK or else you will lose. Round 2, Inspector Border Stun. Evenly Matched is definitely the best card to face decks like that. 2-0. Round 3, World Chalice. The player is actually a good friend and kind of a rival, so it felt good beating him for once. Game 1, Evenly Matched won the game, giving me enough advantage to make Mekk and push through. Game 2, it was Ghost Ogre, Effect Veiler, and Droll, and that was all enough on one turn to stop him dead in his tracks. And then I made Mekk and it was Scoop Phase 2-0. That's so cool to hear that. You don't really hear people talk about having a rival anymore. It's usually like just talking about teammates and not that one player that you want to overcome. So it's actually really cool to see this in your tournament report, David. Round 4 was Trickstar. Honestly, it was a back and forth, and the Trickstar is a really bad matchup for me, as if they just Lycoris Burn, they win because you need like 2 to 3 searches and no disruptions to get yourself going. And going into time, I managed to pull an OTK, and it was a draw 1-1. So there's how you draw with Trickstars. You lose game 1 and you beat them in time game 2. Round 5, Dinosaur True Kings. Game 1, he built a big enough board that an OTK was enough. Game 2, Mekk grinds me to the win after he bricks. Game 3, kind of a back and forth, but he made me go first. I made Mekk and Veilered the Overraptor for an eventual game. You don't got 3 miscellaneous horse anymore. Round 6, the Pendulum Magicians. Game 1, I Ash his Pendulum Call, and basically that's enough to win. Game 2, I misplayed. Instead of activating Magical Spring and getting a free draw, and lets his setup be harder to achieve, I end up activating Droll, realized it, and then scooped for the next game because it was a big misplay. So he kind of lost to himself there that game. Game 3 was a back and forth, but after getting the negate with a Mekk Knight, I thank him, activate Magical Meltdown, and proceed to OTK. Can you imagine the salt? Thank you, my dude. Let me OTK you now. Round 7, Pendulum Magician, and the final round, I found out the Pendulum Magician player in round 6 was talking with this guy about how to counter me, but I was really tired, so even if I lost, I was promised top 8. Game 1, he makes me go first, and I have hand traps, and he OTKs me through them. Game 2, similar outcome, so 0-2. Top 8 cut, I faced Trickstars again, the hardest matchup, but it was Lycoris Burn and Desires, all my Mekk Knights away. So basically, he banished a bunch of his Mekk Knights. I can't imagine it was all 10, but geesh. That would suck. Both games, so I lost. I love the deck, though, and the design of it. So there you have it. He doesn't have any shout-outs that he put in here, but I do want to go ahead on let me look up my subscriptions and re-shout out properly the people that hosted this event. Arsenal Game Gear. Let me show you guys the channel. They live streamed this entire thing. They have some live profiles, including their first place ABC from their states, and I think our Mekk Night Duels. Yeah, I did watch it on here. Is also has a live profile on here. So let's go ahead and get into this deck list. 3 Mekk Knight Blue Sky and 3 Mekk Knight Purple Nightfall. They've gotten cheaper as the format has progressed, so Mekk Knights are relatively easy to pick up for that part of the engine. We've got 2 Mekk Knight Indigo Eclipse, 1 Red Moon, 1 Yellow Star, 3 Alistair the Invoker, 3 Drolin Lockbird, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and 3 Effect Veiler. It really just feels like everyone has moved to Effect Veiler in this hand trap format. It has come back stronger than ever. It seems like the hand trap of the season. I don't think I've actually seen, like, I've seen a lot more lists with 3 than without. It's pretty crazy. 3 Invocation, 1 Invocation, 3 Magical Meltdown, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Regeki, 2 Instant Fusion. As he mentioned, you're able to use that Thousand Eyes Restrict and go Slurp, 2 Pot of Desires, 3 Scapegoat, and 3 Evenly Matched. In the side deck, 3 Ghost Ogre, so he's keeping access to that kind of a hand trap in the side deck, which is very important. As he mentioned, he ended up siding it in a lot, I believe. 2 Gamma Seal, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, 3 Magical Spring for the Pendulum matchup. Pendulums, once they can't pop their scales anymore, especially things like Wisdom Eye, it can really stick them in place sometimes. It can limit their access to their resources in their hand and what their hand can do. And it also can often give you advantage as my 1 card to their multiple cards. 1 Dark Hole, 3 World Legacies Secret. When this card is activated, you can target 1 level 5 or higher monster in your graveyard and special summon it. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Negate any opponent's monster effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk Knight monster you control. So you are trying to put a lot of Mekk Knights on the field, and this basically gives you kind of this wave of negation, especially if you're placing your card straight across. So it's pretty cool, and often you're going to be reviving a Mekk Knight with it too, I imagine. As well as 3-dimensional barrier. We're starting to see this more and more in the format. Sorry for the voice crack. This card is really good against pendulums when you're going first. Just calling pendulum is so strong in this format, and I believe this tournament, 4 of the top cut, half of the top cut was Pendulum Magician. So dimensional barrier, kind of like Veiler, we're seeing stuff from the formats of past that kind of had phased out come back into being very relevant. We've got 2 Link Kuriboh. This card is starting to finally pop up more in the list. We've got Akshik Magician, Proxy Dragon, Underclock Taker. This uses 2 effect monsters and gives you a downward pointing arrow, unlike Proxy Dragon. So it's somewhat generic, but not fully. 2 Mrs. Radiance, or 1 Mrs. Radiant, my bad, it's a Link 2. 1 Decode Talker, 1 Borolo Dragon, 1 Saryuja Skuldred. It seems like in some lists, Skuldred's just replaced Borolo, but on a lot of other lists, they're still playing Borolo. I personally am still a huge fan of Borolo Dragon, so nice to see both make it into this list. We've got the 1000 Eye Restrict. Raijin is still very strong. If you're putting anything but a Link monster in your extra monster zone, you can get stuck for a while. We got Purgatrio. This is one of my favorite. I always call it Purgatorio, even though it's Purgatrio. It's really just an awesome card against pendulums because they have those scales and extra resources, so it often gets buffed up against them. 1 Magellan Sia and 2 Mekaba. I think it really shows in his tournament report that so many times the game came down to him using hand traps and then having Mekaba for the final resources in order to clinch his wins, and it really emphasizes how important the Invoked engine was for his tournament with this deck. I honestly didn't see Mekk Knights coming. I did not think they would be, you know, pushing their presence. I even made a poll on YouTube asking, without Grinder Golem, do you think Mekk Knights will be doing anything? And 75% of people called it the next Magibullets alongside me, saying that it was overhyped and it won't be able to do it. And then a lot of people expressed concern that I wouldn't, but 25% of the people that voted out of 2,000 said we were underestimating them and they would find a way. So to you, 500 people who voted out of the thousands, good job. You were right. I was wrong, and so were a lot of other people. And huge congrats again to our man's David Casimir here. He went all the way with a deck that was really, really cool into a top cut of a decent-sized competitive tournament, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm happy with the first look at Mekk Knights on the channel, because honestly, I've been calling for the Invoked engine to come out and do its thing for a while now, and it finally is, alongside a really interesting deck.